Are you salivating over a GTX 1080 Ti? Well, stop it, you're making a mess. Welcome everyone, I'm Twisted Skins, and this video is especially for you guys with low-end PCs. We're going to go on a discovery of 3 awesome games that you can run on practically any PC within the last 5 to 7 years. You won't have to sell your kidneys on eBay to run any of these games, no sir. So, let's take a look at these underrated classics that probably went under your radar. First up, we have Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. This hack-and-slash action RPG reminds me of a mixture of World of Warcraft and Elder Scrolls Oblivion. It has the same vibrant colour palette and cartoon-style graphics as World of Warcraft, and the same kind of lure and artistic style as Oblivion. If you like either of these games or Skyrim, then there is a high chance that this will appeal to you too. The reason that this has a familiar feel to it is because the lead designer from Oblivion, Ken Rolston, actually collaborated with R.A. Salvatore and Todd McFarlane to produce Kingdoms of Amalur. As good as Oblivion is, I always found it a bit clunky during combat, and this is where Amalur excels. With combat that is fluid and very responsive, this can lead to some really intense fights, especially if you select the difficulty to hard, which is what I would recommend if you want to get the most out of this game. Is it realistic? Hell no, but it's bloody good fun. Watching a petite female wielding a gigantic hammer with ease is certainly a satisfying experience when you combine this with sharp combat. Very much like Skyrim, you can easily spend over 100 hours completing the many story and side quests. The fact that you can get this game for under £5 makes it really good value. You have the usual suspects for a game of this type. If you fancy sneaking around and stabbing people without revealing your presence, or setting off high critical hits and poisoning everyone to death, then the assassin or finesse class as they call it will fulfill this role nicely. If you want to spend your time honing your skills in the arcane arts, then the sorcerer or mage class will definitely not disappoint. Some of the spells look spectacular and are very powerful. Finally, we have the Might or Warrior class, where you'll wield massive two-handed weapons and pulverise your enemies into the floor, quite often at the expense of taking little damage yourself, but hey, that's what warrior armour is for, offering the highest level of protection in the face of danger. There is also the option to make a hybrid of 2 or more of these archetypes, and that is when things start to get really interesting. For example, if you combine the elements of magic and assassin, you can unlock the ability to teleport behind the person in a puff of poisonous smoke, which not only looks cool but closes the gap so you can rain down havoc with super fast fey blades or daggers. The great thing about Amalur is that if you don't find your current build fun or effective, then you have the option to respec all your points and switch up your build for a small price at NPCs called Fate Weavers. There is also the Fate Weaver mechanic, which effectively slows down time so you can dispatch minions quickly and take out some real tough guys with relative ease. You also get the added bonus of gaining quite a lot of experience, so we'll want to execute this as often as possible to rank up your character and unlock more devastating moves or combos. Those of you that prefer high-octane racing and are fans of Mario Kart or Diddy Kong Racing will be pleased to hear that Sega released Sonic AllStars Racing Transform for the PC. This hidden gem takes a familiar formula and improves upon it with racing that's just as fast and responsive but with greater diversity. Executing front or back flips and landing them successfully grants you additional speed boosts, which can be the difference between winning and losing the race on the highest settings. You have the usual power-ups and the additional element to transform your vehicle into either a boat or aeroplane, which adds an extra dimension to make this an even more engrossing arcade racer. As you complete each lap, the track changes, so you might be racing a boat on your first lap only to be flying a plane on your second. It keeps you guessing how the track and your vehicle will transform to keep you coming back for more. There is a great deal of variety to the tracks and all the characters are well balanced. As you progress through the game, you'll unlock additional characters, different vehicle settings and more advanced tracks. But the great thing about this game is, even as the tracks become more challenging, it still remains fun to play. You can literally race for hours on this solo, or with friends and family if you fancy being a bit more sociable. It is extremely easy to pick up and play for beginners, but much harder to master on the higher settings. There are several different game modes, including the World Tour, Grand Prix and Time Attack, which are all customisable, so you're sure to find one that suits your level of skill and playstyle. And finally, if a challenging survival game is more to your taste, then you should definitely check out The Long Dark. You're a lone survivor in a harsh and unforgiving land of permanent winter. When starting out, the aptly named Pleasant Valley is anything but, and reminiscent of how Bear Grylls would probably feel if he was dropped in the middle of Canada. Although graphically this is not up there with the latest AAA titles, the unique art style is good enough for the experience to be believable. There is excellent atmosphere, and the long dark captures the sense of being isolated and vulnerable better than any other sandbox survival game I've played, where you'll battle with the forces of nature to keep yourself warm, hydrated, fed and rested. Letting just one of these vital statistics drop can spell trouble in the later exploration. With multiple statistics dropping, it can certainly ramp up the nail-biting intensity to see if you can survive for yet another day. If you have this on a hard setting, it is extremely easy to die of hypothermia before you even make it to some kind of shelter. Even if you manage to find a quiet place of rest, you'll have to stay vigilant on your journey as the dangerous wildlife seeks you out if they catch a hint of your scent or presence. These come in the form of massive black bears and packs of wolves. Without a decent weapon, your chance of survival against these hungry creatures are pretty slim. However, it's not all doom and gloom. In contrast to the game's stark isolation, the game also showcases some glorious sunsets if you just stop for a second to take in the scenery. Once you have a grasp of how to survive, there are many helpful items to craft, including makeshift weapons and traps for hunting, and fur-skin clothing to keep the cold at bay, including bearskin coats if you're strategic and brave enough to face Mr. Grizzly. It has several different modes and difficulties for you to hone your survival skills on, so it has great replay value. Overall, if you place immersion higher than graphical prowess, consider taking adventure on the Long Dark. It can be picked up for the princely sum of £13, but I have seen it sub £8 when sales are on. Well, that about wraps it up, proving that you don't need a fortune to have a great time on PC. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to like, share and subscribe. Stay passionate about PC, whatever your budget, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.